I honestly love this kid so much. So this video is the second part of the video I put out 2 weeks ago about the Northern Air Temple episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I split it in two because I wanted to talk about the episode itself, but I also want to talk about Teo as a character from a disability representation perspective. And the two don't really go together to form a cohesive whole. But yeah, this guy, son of the Mechanist, whom I still hate with all my might, go check out the previous video if you want to know why. Teo is a sweetheart. He's kind, smart, a bit mischievous, and he's got a competitive streak. He's also, I'm going to assume, paraplegic as a result of a spinal injury, just based off of his design and what the Mechanist says here.
A long time ago, but not 100 years, my people became refugees after a terrible flood. My infant son, Teo, was badly hurt and lost his mother.
And the fact that paraplegia is one of the more commonly seen disabilities in media. When a wheelchair is involved anyhow. He's a very minor character. In all 3 seasons of the show, he shows up in exactly 8 episodes, and he's got speaking lines in only half of them. But honestly, I think that's really valuable. Avatar is kind of known for having this big main disabled character, and don't get me wrong, I love Toph dearly, but her presence in the show becomes almost better when it's supported by other disabled people. Because she's not the only one, she's not the odd one out. Disabled people exist in the world of Avatar, and it's not at all remarkable. Having someone like Teo, who's not a bender and just exists in a minor role in the story, be disabled, is so goddamn refreshing. Along with minor details like when they're in the Western Air Temple, Teo has Haru help him up the stairs instead of how he navigates the place being hand-waved or just never addressed. And it's not even directly addressed in a big deal fashion either. It's just a quick shot of the two of them at the top of the stairs before Teo takes off again to continue exploring. Seeing him just be allowed to exist as he is, and the characters around him never even so much as commenting on his wheelchair, it paints a really nice picture of the commonly held view of disabled people in the world of Avatar. Like, yeah, Toph deals with her fair share of ableism and her parents suck, and the world definitely isn't an accessible paradise or anything like that, but Teo, when among his friends and allies, is allowed to just exist. He is allowed to have fun and be a kid, and no one hand-wrings about him being fragile or questions for a moment whether or not he can help when it's time for the invasion. He talks casually about things like fixing his brakes, which shouldn't amaze me as much as it does, but I just don't see things like this very often. But, of course, that's not all there is to him. He's also an animated character, which means he has a design. So let's go over that, shall we? First thing I notice, the fingerless gloves. Now, I don't use these with my current wheelchair because the grip on it makes it so that the gloves are more a hindrance than a help, but with these wheels, yeah, go with the gloves. Having them means he'll get better traction and protects his hands. It's a nice touch. Then there are the constantly bandaged legs. This one is a bit of a head-scratcher, because it seems like they're bound together in this kind of mermaid tail fashion, which just seems inconvenient, really. I can only imagine it makes transferring unnecessarily hard. It probably has something to do with keeping his legs stationary during flight, but if that's the case, I feel like having just 2 easily removable straps, one above and one just below his knees, would make his life a lot easier. So that's a bit of a weird, ambiguous design choice, and not personally one I would have made. As for the chair itself, well, I kind of hate it and love it at the same time. Because on the one hand, it's definitely more aerodynamic than your average wheelchair, which is probably what it was designed for, but on the other, God, looking at the length of this thing is making me cringe so badly. I actually did an experiment for this video. I took my own chair and rolled around in it while sticking my legs out in front of me instead of sitting like I normally would, and guess what I found out? Doubling the amount of space you take up is not great for navigating tight corners. I know, shocker. So that's a slightly questionable detail in this design, but I also understand it because, again, aerodynamics. Teo's wheelchair is also lower to the ground than is usual, which again is likely because of the whole flying thing, but again will cause some issues when on ground level. Mainly, it'll make getting over thresholds and bumps in the terrain and the like a lot harder. It's also a manual wheelchair, which is lovely because that's the type I have. Which is why I feel completely validated in saying this backrest is not doing him any favors. It's blocking off the full range of motion for his shoulders, which will make actually wheeling around harder than it has to be. I know this because I used a hospital model before my current one, which has a backrest that reaches about the middle of my back. The old one, however, came up to right around my shoulders, and it was not a fun time, let me tell you. Having a backrest this high puts unnecessary strain on your muscles because you literally can't get the most out of every push. And I don't know if this is a model issue or something, because sometimes it looks fine and sometimes it doesn't, but Teo seems to sit a little low in the chair for being able to effectively push himself. But that's not to say I hate this wheelchair. No, as I said, I kind of also love it. It's very obviously designed with Teo's specific needs in mind, which is why it looks so weird to me, someone who does not spend the majority of his time hang gliding in his wheelchair. And the fact that it doesn't really have armrests is another point in its favor. I know, armrests. Who'd have thought? Certainly not me before I got a wheelchair, but yeah. Wheelchairs with armrests are not designed with long-term independent use in mind. Well, manual ones anyway. When I was still using the hospital model, I regularly ended up bruising the inside of my elbows because I was hitting them against the armrests as I was wheeling myself around. It wasn't great. Teo's wheelchair was clearly designed by someone who knew him and his needs very well, probably his dad. I'd guess that Teo himself probably had a hand in its design once he was old enough. And clearly, since he doesn't see an issue with its length, it hasn't caused any problems on ground level, even though it probably should given what we've seen of the Northern Air Temple's infrastructure. Honestly, if I were to design him, I'd probably have him change it a bit once he starts spending more time on ground level away from the Northern Air Temple. Because, seriously, this isn't practical. He's going to run into so many corners and people are going to trip over him. In general, though, I really desperately want more characters like Teo. Yes, obviously I want more disabled protagonists and heroes, but I want them to exist alongside disabled minor characters. Characters who are allowed to just exist as they are in the background, who cement that disabled people do exist in many forms and all walks of life. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!